Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. I need some audience participation. How many of you are manufacturers? So maybe a third. Are there any architects and engineers here? Just a few? Good, more than I thought. How many contractors? Okay, very few. How many owners? Very, very few. Well, at the end of the day, we all have to work together to change the way construction is being done. So it's sometimes unusual when I come to a construction conference and talk about destruction. But Stefan's already beaten me to it with his constructive destruction. So what gives me a right to come here and talk to you? Well, Gafcon is involved in helping owners to construct big building programs. So some of these can be relatively small, a single building, maybe $20 or $30 million. At the opposite end of the stream, we're helping what we call serial builders build large programs, maybe in a school district or a community college, or even in the commercial world, a whole city block, or data centers around the world. Those overall programs can be of the order of maybe $3 to $5 billion a year in expenditure. So it's my job to help the owners build safer, build higher quality, but cheaper and faster. So I come from America, my adopted country now, and we use sports analogies a lot. So for those of you who don't know, we have this game called American football. We'll tell a story about a new owner who gets appointed a new franchise for a football team. And he knows he's going to make a lot of money doing this, as long as he does it right. He's going to win the Super Bowl in the first year. So he gets the best coaching staff that he can buy. It's very expensive. This coaching staff puts together the perfect playbook. They had designed how every game is going to be. They've analyzed the competition. They know exactly how to win every game. But the coaching staff is very expensive. They've spent a lot of money. So when the general management then has to go and find players, they have a smaller budget. They have to make sure they get people who are fit for purpose. You probably know that term, fit for purpose. So they go and find a few players, and they make sure they've got all the players they need to win the game. They all turn up on game day. They're given the playbook, and they're told to go out and win. Now, you might think that's an impossible story. It will never happen within a sports franchise. But it happens every day in construction within our design, bid, build, contract methodology. Just think about it. There's no sports team in the world would use it. So we've got to take these problems, we've got to solve them with a different perspective. Einstein's given us that perspective. If you look at the problem we're solving, though, the American Bureau of Labor Statistics has been tracking efficiencies of labor since the mid-60s. Manufacturing efficiencies have improved by about 250 times. Construction's got worse. Projects are too expensive. They take too long. Quality is not optimized. They're not as safe as they could be. I sum that up in one word. The world of construction is unpredictable. There is no other industry in the world which is as unpredictable as construction. How many projects actually come in on time and on budget? So whose responsibility is it to change this? I say it's everyone's responsibility, but I believe the owner needs to take prime responsibility. But are we still trying to solve yesterday's problems with technology? I was at a conference about 3 weeks ago, which was how to use construction technologies to collaborate. And one of the most important build presentations was for an application that allowed the construction team to keep a verbal record of everything that went wrong within that construction project. And the purpose of it was to make change orders, to make claims against the owner, and to defend themselves in litigation. If you subscribe to lean principles, we had a whole team, and a whole focus of that application was to create waste. So I believe incremental improvement is no longer enough. We have to go for transformational improvement. So how many of you take photographs when you're on holiday? Hands up? Nearly everyone. How many of you no longer send postcards? Quite a few of you. So when you take your photographs, do you post them to Facebook? Do you maybe still FaceTime with some of the people who are left at home and tell them about a good thing that you're seeing? Very, very different from the people a long time ago, prehistoric. They used to go on vacation and then paint pictures on their caves. I'm assuming nobody comes back and paints pictures in the house anymore. No, no one. So technology is always advancing, but the way in which we use it has to change. Technology shouldn't just improve what we're doing, it should dramatically change what we're doing. So if we look at the evolution of construction, excuse me, in terms of project controls, when I started off, we had a schedule, and we had an Excel spreadsheet to monitor our costs. We then went into a more cost-centric environment. We're now going into an area where I think we're ready to be data-centric. But data-centric in terms of BIM. BIM is data at the most granular level within a project. The BIM elements are transformed from virtual into physical. And these elements are represented in the complete life cycle. I'm going to just assume that we're into a 5-step life cycle: planning, design, procurement, construction, and operations and maintenance. So let's put it into perspective. How many of you would like to save 30% of the cost of your building? A lot of people. Do you think that's possible today? Anyone think it's possible with what we're doing today? Maybe 2 or 3 people. Well, it's actually being done. There's a lot of references out there of people who are saving a lot of money. Even the UK government agency, 33% from their published figures. It's all possible today using just parts of the technology that's available. If you start using all of it, then I believe the savings could be 40 or 50%. The Lean Construction Institute in America has estimated that 60% of what we do on site is non-value added. So this is a target-rich environment. So we believe that the digital twin concept is the way to go. We build the project before the project is built. We have a single data model, which is the point of truth of everything to do with that project. So what is everything? And how does the owner currently organize this? Well, at the moment, the owner is in charge of these 5 silos. There are a lot of improvements which are being done within these 5 silos with different technologies. But if you start to make a bad process more efficient, all you do is create waste faster. You don't create any improvement. So let's look at it slightly differently. Here's the owner in the middle, being the bottleneck for communication. We should really be communicating between each of these steps, but we have all sorts of barriers to communication. Most of them are because of our project organization and legal framework. We also have a big problem because we're using lots of different systems. In each step, we maybe are using multiple systems that don't talk to one another and don't allow us to collaborate. So we believe that everything must come together into a common data environment. That must be a data environment in which we've defined the standards of data. We have identified applications that allow us to collaborate across our normal silos. And we have to also provide a contractual and legal framework that allows us to perform this collaboration effectively. We call this the one model. And we create this one model, first of all, by going in with our owners and creating a vision for how it's going to be done, because everyone is working from a different starting point. We find that in doing this, we're starting to attract the best players. The best players want to improve, they want to eliminate waste, but they also want higher margins. And they realize that by eliminating the waste, we can create higher margins for everyone, including the owner in the process. We have a big focus on collaboration. We want everyone to work together. It's not something that's done at the moment. We want to provide the complete team with that collaborative environment, both application and data environment. We want to encounter and solve all the problems in the virtual world before we encounter them in the real world. We want to coordinate across the complete building life cycle. We believe in starting at the end, starting in facilities management and working backwards. And we want to deliver safer and higher quality buildings at a lower cost and at a faster schedule. BIM contributes, but doesn't solve the problem. To us, we solve the problem through virtual design and construction. We can do this in terms of organization by bringing the main players together. Normally, Gafcon helps the owner communicate with the architects and engineer, and then helps the owner communicate with the general contractor. There's no communication between the architect and the general contractor normally. We need to bring all three parties together, and we need to facilitate that conversation in the middle. We also need to facilitate that conversation across different organizational groups and different technologies. So we need to visualize through BIM, but we also need to simulate through association with the schedule, through association with cost estimates, through association to the actual costs and to the control of the asset. So how do we use BIMobject to do this? 3 examples. One in design, one in construction, one in facilities. So in design, we are identifying assemblies. One of our data center projects, each phase has about 62,000 BIM elements. We form from those BIM elements a number of assemblies, which could be an electrical room, which can be brought together from numerous different manufacturers in an assembly that can be used over and over again. This is saved into BIMobject. We have all our discipline models in BIMobject, which can be referenced from one data center to the other. This means that not just the visual elements, but all the attributes for all the pieces of equipment can be stored in BIMobject in terms of design requirements that can be passed through into the cycle in these assemblies to be costed and then to be paid by those assemblies. It dramatically simplifies the project controls. In construction, we're starting off with also everything in BIMobject, populated by the vendors. We are, the architect is providing what we call a requirements or a specification model. That goes into a construction model where we're starting to take a specific piece of equipment from BIMobject and replace it within the BIM. Everything is kept in synchronization between BIMobject and Revit. This allows us to completely change the requirements approval and the submittals process. Because everything is already in BIMobject, we don't have to get the general contractor to pull these 150, 200-page documents together for submittals. And best of all, the facilities management group gets all the data that they need to prepare for the new facility at around about 60% through the design process. No longer are they waiting until the end of construction to understand exactly what they have to do. The third focus is in what we call facilities activation, where we can either take that model and load it into the facilities software, or we can go and scan, and then we can activate that as-built facility back into the same data streams. Everything is using BIMobject. So if I would ask 4 things, is to look for integrating the team, is to look for incenting the team. Look for these wastes, but reward them as they eliminate the waste as a team. Always use lean principles, because lean will teach you how to get there faster and then constantly improve. We have to change our mindset from buying the cheapest, which I would say is not the cheapest, it's the lowest first cost, to attract the best. Build the best team, which will give you your lowest final cost. In conclusion, how many people have been to a concert without a conductor? Owners, it's time to step onto the podium and take control of your entire building life cycle. Thank you.